In the 1960s, the Tucson Urban Renewal project had damaging outcomes for our community, but this urban renewal continues to manifest itself today through luxury development and expansion of the central business district that continues to displace families and makes it possible for developers to contribute to the continuation of the gentrification of Tucson.
It's not about housing, it's about assets. Housing is treated as a commodity rather than a community, where developers get tax incentives to build housing and then ask for another tax incentive to price out the majority of the citizens out of the housing market.
It's not rocket science, you know. What do we think that people need to have a dignified life? It's clear that decent housing, affordable housing, is one of those things.
After the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo that annexed Lower Arizona to the U.S., Anglos began migrating to the predominantly Mexican pueblo of Tucson. They quickly established economic power despite remaining a minority group. By 1888, they were securely established in their economic control, and original Tucsonans began moving south. With the establishment of the U of A in 1885, racial, ethnic, and economic segregation became more pronounced. While Anglos dominated business spheres, Mexican communities began creating their own cultural landscape and safe haven in the barrios that reflected what life was like before the Anglification of Tucson. By 1920, Anglos outnumbered Mexicans in Tucson.
My name is Pedro Gonzalez and I live in Barrio Viejo. I was born in Nogales, Sonora, in Buenos Aires. That's where my mom and my dad are from. 3 boys and 7 girls in the family, and I'm the second oldest. The 3 oldest were born in Nogales. My dad, he immigrated first, and then we came along, and then the 7 of my other brothers and sisters, they were born here. But from the very beginning, we set foot in Barrio Viejo. Barrio Viejo, back then it was beautiful, Barrio Viejo, and you know, there was a lot of mom and pop stores, there was a lot of bakeries, you know, there was a lot of Chinese restaurants that we would go, you know, and there was also a lot of our people, you know, the Mexican people, Mexican American people, and they had their stores.
We walked here, and this is where we did our main purchases in this area. So it's like this commercial activity, I think it was very unique to this area. Now, 100 years later, we have urban planners trying to seek those elusive ingredients that create a so-called healthy city. We used to have those things. We used to have people walking. We used to have building materials that were efficient, energy efficient. We used to have downtown as a destination. And that was 50 years ago. And now we're trying to go back in time and recreate what city leaders purposely tore down.
By the late 1950s, Tucson elites were looking to accommodate the growing suburbanites in the downtown area, and labeled Barrio Libre and Barrio Viejo blighted and slummed. In 1965, the city voted yes on its urban renewal project that would significantly change the city's physical and cultural landscape.
During that time, some city 2 men in ties, 2 white men in ties came and talked to all the families lived on Meyer Street. And since we were real close to 14th Street, they approached us, and so they were telling people, you know, that eventually you're going to have to move. And we said, why? And he says, well, we're knocking all this down, you know. And if you don't want to sell, we're gonna go under the eminent domain. And this is in 1965. By 1966, most of us had already moved from that area, because they made people either sell their place, or if they didn't sell it, and if you rent it, they threatened the landowners. And there was a lot of people that didn't want to sell, and some of them had to sell for nothing. And then the other people that said, I will not sell at all, then they took the property away from them. And so we were all forced to move. We were displaced. And what happened, my mom and dad, you know, they had talked to us and said, well, we don't want to leave the barrio. They were telling we don't want to leave the barrio because, we attended Carrillo School. At the time, we went to Carrillo School and our friends were there, That's the reason why they did urban renewal, because they said it was blighted.
Yeah.
They called us a disease, a cancer. That's what they called us. And that's why the federal government was able to give them monies so they can move us all out, displace us.
In 2008, the city of Tucson, in an effort to revitalize the downtown area and boost economic growth in the central business district after the recession, implemented a number of tax incentives to encourage developers to invest their money in the downtown area and central business district.
Property taxes are going up because these people are building whatever they want. They're building skyscrapers in the barrio. They have made it so expensive because they buy and then they sell, they buy and sell. So they just keep flipping the homes. Most of them not there to live there long time. They're there to make money.
Gentrification is the systematic process of displacing poor people from a community and replacing them with more affluent people, all in the interest of profit. Displacement of working-class people takes place throughout all stages of gentrification and by various methods and tactics. The government at all levels is complicit in setting the stage for gentrification and often facilitates it. Developers who take over our barrios and build high-cost housing units for the rich are rarely or never held accountable.
The developers are going to buy up any property that's available, especially lots. Now they're making apartments and some they call it some small business, But that's what they're doing. They're going after old buildings that have been vacant, and that's the whole thing. That's the only way that we can protect our barrios. We need to take over public land. When it comes to private land, it's different. But you got to take over public land and force the city because we are the taxpayers too. So we have every right to fight for public land because it's ours. We pay for it. But that's the way we're going to do it. Is we need to be at the table and we need to be persistent.
Donde vivió nuestra raza, solo quedan los escombros. Viejo barrio, barrio viejo, que en mi infancia te gocé.